Okay, we have paid sacrifice to the guinea pigs in the form of cucumbers, so maybe they will not scream for like 15, 20 minutes. And we can do this. We can have this conversation without shrieking in the background. Maybe, maybe not. We will see. But we're here to talk about the elephant in the room. And so I guess like it's not really an elephant in the room because it's not really this big thing that no one's talking about. It's a big thing that everybody is talking about. You can't get away from it. We're here to talk about Ozempic, ladies. As an obese person on the internet that has tried and failed to lose weight and keep it off publicly for the past 4 years, of course, it has been asked what I feel about this and if I would consider taking it. So this is what this is right now. Here's the disclaimers. Not a doctor, not a medical professional, nowhere near the pharmaceutical industry. Don't have any knowledge about that other than what I can Google. This is just meant to like be a casual conversation between friends, one of which who has considered taking this medication and just kind of like giving you the lowdown. And I'm definitely not here to be shaming anybody for wanting to take these medications, taking these medications, because believe me, I know the grind. I know the struggle is real, and so if anybody finds success on whether it's keto, carnivore diet, going vegan, taking Ozempic, gastric bypass, whatever it is, if someone finds success doing it and keeping off the weight, dude, round of applause. Cheers to you. Like, bitch, it's hard out there. And my mission objective is not to say one way or the other is better. I'm just here to like mull over what I decided for myself and why. Because I have been spiraling for like the past 2 weeks, researching all of this stuff and coming ultimately to a decision for myself. So I'm just gonna kind of go through like why I decided what I decided. I did make like kind of a lighthearted joke back in January on one of my shorts where I was like lifting weights in this like not even a minute long video, and I said something about like, the goal here is to build muscle. This isn't Ozempic or whatever. Just like kind of a nod at one of the very real symptoms of this medication because it does not discern between fat and muscle. And so as a result, a lot of people found themselves losing a significant amount of lean muscle mass, which not ideal for me personally. With weight loss in general, there is some muscle loss. It's just the way of the game, but it just seemed like there was just like a lot more with these medications. But we'll get into like all the side effects and pros and cons and all that stuff. But I just want to address that because people were like, medication shamer! And I was like, I thought that was pretty mild. But I guess so was what Chris Rock said about Jada Pinkett Smith at the Oscars, and Will Smith also got up and slapped him, so you never can tell. So the first time I ever heard the word Ozempic uttered was back in January of this year, and it was like brought up in the form of articles where it was just basically saying that celebrities were taking this to get thinner, like a thin get thinner situation. As with anything that celebrities do, people emulate it, and this was causing a shortage in supply for the people who like really needed the medication, the people it was for, which is diabetics. How they addressed this was a name change. So there are 2 weekly injectable medications on the market. You got Ozempic and Wegovy. They're the same medication, but Wegovy is for weight loss. The Ozempic is reserved for people with diabetes. And then you have Mounjaro and Zepbound. The Zepbound is a weight loss one. Mounjaro is reserved for people with diabetes. For the sake and brevity of this video, I'm going to be referring to like the weight loss ones because that's what I would be using it for because I don't have diabetes. So both these drugs are lumped together because they both impact hormone pathways in the body that help control blood sugar levels and help reduce appetite, which in turn leads to weight loss. However, they are different. Wegovy or Ozempic has been on the market and used for about 18 years, where Mounjaro, Zepbound, only 2. Wegovy is a single agonist affecting GLP-1. People are reporting total body weight reduction of about 14%, whereas Zepbound is a dual agonist, so it affects both GLP-1 and GIP. Zepbound is even more with about 20% total body weight reduction, and word on the street is because the capitalism is capitalizing, we're going to be seeing a third little piggy coming to market that will affect 3 hormone pathways. It's going to be called like 3G, G3, something like that, where the goal is 24% body weight reduction. And here's like the thing with these types of things, like it was crawling for a long time, and all of a sudden it's got legs and it is running full speed ahead, Usain Bolt. And ladies, I would be sitting here a dirty rat liar if I was telling you that I did not consider taking this. Like, it looks really appealing. Not going to lie. And for someone who has struggled with trying to lose weight since they were 12 years old and then being on the internet and doing it, and you would think that like having hundreds of people watching you would be a strong motivation to lose the weight and keep it off. I did not find that the case. I'm not here to like make excuses about anything. I'm just sitting here telling you. While I was doing this research on this medication, I also did research in obesity, and I found statistics for the percentage of people who manage to get the weight off and keep it off, and the number is pretty sad. Something like 95% of people who have success losing about like 10% of their body weight end up gaining it back within 1 to 3 years. I have thought like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why can't I stick to it? Just like all the shame involved in that, and then like publicizing it to a point where like not only you know your shame, but like hundreds of other people know your shame and berate you for it. Like there were people making the assumption that like I was just like not getting fit because it would give me more views on YouTube, which is totally not the case. Like this channel is dying, dead. Not losing the weight doesn't keep people around. It makes people lose faith in you. So while the statistic of the 95% of people were like me was like mildly helpful, like maybe for like a fraction of a second, then like this feeling of despair kind of took over, and girl, I spiraled. I was like, what the fuck? I started thinking about my own situation. I'm like, okay, I got the ADHD, I got the PCOS, I got anxiety and depression, and I have a binge eating disorder. What are my odds now of like actually being successful at this thing? So I was very heavily considering taking this once a week injectable medication that was seemingly the holy grail for my problems. Sorry, I had to change the battery pack. But here comes this like beacon of hope that's like not only this holy grail of like potential weight loss, right? But also people are reporting like the food noise just going away. And as someone who spends a good majority of the day thinking about food, thinking about their next meal, wanting their next meal to be perfect, I've said it once, I'll say it a million times, I'm definitely someone who lives to eat rather than eats to live. Even though I do think that I have a pretty good handle on the binge eating disorder thing. I haven't binged in over a year, but I still do think about food all of the time. There's still definitely that want sometimes when there's like an emotional trigger or whatever else to just full out gorge. And don't get me wrong, I've definitely like overeaten, but it's not the gorging, if that makes any sense. Anyways, so of course there are risks with this kind of medication. I mean, it'd be silly to assume that there wasn't any. The loss of lean muscle tissue is one of them that I kind of cited earlier. The really common ones are nausea, vomiting, upset stomach, diarrhea kind of thing. And from what I understand, it's not mild. Of the 2 people I know that have taken it, it's like pretty aggressive to the point where they got off of it. Other side effects could include like dizziness, mild tachycardia, which is increased heart rate, infections, headaches, indigestion, probably from the delayed stomach emptying that's associated with these medications. And there's like a couple of severe but rare side effects too, which include pancreatitis, gastroparesis, that's that delayed stomach emptying thing, but then like your stomach muscles just like stop working, right? So that food's just like sitting in there, and I hear the pains from that are pretty aggressive. And also an increased risk of medullary thyroid cancer, which I'm a little bit like confused on that. It says in the subscript that it's been observed in rat studies, but not in the human trials yet, but just to kind of like look out for it and like not to take it if you have like instances in your family of medullary thyroid cancer. Something that I was personally really interested in was its effects on anxiety, because as you guys know, I have that. So I was really concerned about this potentially making it worse. Of the one like random TikTok I saw of a girl talking about her anxiety, she noticed that her anxiety got better. but she is also on anxiety medications. And another thing with the delayed stomach emptying of this injectable is it can affect whatever medication you're taking on top of it, because, you know, like the stuff in your stomach's not getting fully digested or not digesting as fast. So maybe you're absorbing more type of thing. So my guess is her anxiety medication just was able to work better or like absorb more into her system because her stomach's not emptying as quickly. I don't know. That is just literally a whole guess. Like, this was just like one singular thing that I found, but also, I guess Ozempic babies are starting to become a thing because people are just becoming pregnant. It's either making like the birth control not as effective or like not absorbing, or my guess is the reduction in symptoms like PCOS and people who like don't think that they can get pregnant are still doing their activities full force and all of a sudden fertile. I don't know, but it has an effect on the medication that you take. So that's something to watch out for. But there were like a couple of Reddit posts on people experiencing more anxiety and all this stuff. And anxiety is kind of like a weird thing because you can kind of think yourself into having anxiety, you know? Like if you're nervous taking the medication, you might be nervous that it's like doing something to you. I don't know. So that's like a hard one to nail down and find answers for. So the risks of this medication are kind of scary, and it being relatively new to the market means that there are unknowns. We don't know what being on this medication would look like for a long period of time, and that's also a con. Is it's likely something that you'll just have to keep taking for the rest of your life, because they did a study of the people who went off of it and majority gained the weight back. So this isn't just like a get on it till I lose the weight type of thing. This would have to be a decision for seemingly forever. But along that same notion, the cons of being obese are not great at all, okay? They are exponentially worse. And while you don't really know like the long-term effects of being on these medications, we do know the long-term effects of being obese. And those include girl, the list is staggering. High blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, cancer, heart disease, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea, stroke, gallbladder disease, high cholesterol, fatty liver disease, fertility issues, kidney disease, stroke, increased risk of some cancers, breathing problems, increased risk of anxiety and depression. Overall, being obese is just really not great, and it's nothing to do with like shaming people who are obese. I'm obese myself. It's just long term, it doesn't end well. Of that list, I currently only have the anxiety and depression portion. Everything else is normal. Well, I don't know about the fertility issues. I do have PCOS, but I've never tried or wanted to go down that path, so I have no idea. But I definitely would qualify for being on Zepbound or Wegovy if I wanted to. However, I have decided, as enticing as it is, to not go that route. Even though it does have a lot of benefits and people have been like having like great success with it, here's what I see the scenario playing out for me as. I see myself getting on it, definitely having like the stomach issues, because I have stomach issues normally. I don't see myself skipping over that one. Not in my wildest dreams, okay? And I even see myself getting the more severe side effects based on my track history and how my body betrays me at any chance it gets. I'm also really nervous about taking anything that would affect my hormones, based personally on having a very adverse reaction to ADHD medicine. When I got diagnosed with that, they bounced me around on a ton of different medications with a ton of different dosages within like the span of 3 months. And I believe that that led to a mental breakdown, which put me in like this whole state of panic for like a month. I'm not 100% sure because, you know, real life doctors aren't like House. There's not 5 of them sitting around figuring out your medical mysteries, but it just coincides with what happened. And also I took my Vyvanse pill and immediately got like a little twinge of panic that like went away after 20 minutes, and I was like, that was weird. That's something that doesn't happen normally. Like, I'm prone to anxiety, but this was just like something different, something on a whole new level. But yeah, completely disrupted my life, and I'm still dealing with the effects of that. Not as bad, but yeah, it makes me super apprehensive to just try stuff out for funsies. I digress. But also, I would want to stay on this medication just until I lost the weight, which doesn't seem to be a thing. As far as like research shows, the people who get off of it gain the weight that they lost back, or at least a majority of it. So that would mean I would subject myself to the negative side effects of the medication, as well as still being obese and having all those negative side effects of obesity. So without staying on it for like the rest of my life, I don't know. I mean, like, the goal would be to like work on having a healthy relationship with food and finding healthier habits and stuff while being on the medication. But my whole thing is like, if I don't have the thoughts of food constantly, if I'm not getting the same dopamine hit from like eating that I normally do, you know, because a big thing that they say is like it kind of alters your reward system in your brain, where like eating doesn't have the same effect as it did as far as like comfort eating and stuff like that. I just don't think that there would be much to work against. Whereas when I go off the medication, all that stuff would be back, right? And then it'd just be square one, where it'd be like me gaining the weight back because all of a sudden those things are present again. To me, it kind of sounds like being sick. Like, not saying like people who are taking this medication are sick. I'm just saying that when you're sick, you oftentimes don't feel like eating, you know, you probably lose some weight, and then all of a sudden when you're not sick anymore, you don't just magically keep that weight off most of the time, like you gain it back because you feel like eating again. I see it being like that. I don't know, so like after doing all this research and seeing how stacked the odds are against people trying to lose weight in any form long term, where does that leave us? My main focus is going to be on keeping the weight off rather than just the weight loss. And of the real life examples that I know of people who have lost the weight, like people that I personally know who have lost weight and kept it off, they change entirely, like not just in a physical appearance. So that kind of has to be like the ultimate mindset, like not just changing in the short term, but it kind of just has to be like, okay, this is just the way that it's going to be from now on. And that might be a difference, because I know that I can lose weight. I've lost significant amount of weight several times in my life. The problem is I always gain it back, and to be honest, I have this thing with like a self-destructive tendency that probably needs to be addressed. Because like this last stint when I was doing like the no added sugar thing, which ultimately ended up being like a mainly eating whole unprocessed foods, which ended up working great for me, I got sick, and then I got a bunch of comments from people saying like, oh, you never finish anything, and surprise, surprise, she didn't finish this, or whatever else. All of things that I was personally telling myself, and that's why those comments are hurtful, because I'm already saying that stuff to myself, and then you got other people noticing it too, so of course, you know, it becomes true, despite actually getting really sick and losing the weight. But it just kind of like when something negative happens, I feed into it and I'm like, yeah, you are a piece of shit. Let's make you really a piece of shit and make you feel worse. Like there's just something to that I need to not do anymore if I want to actually do this thing. But yeah, that's all for now. Some of you asked how I felt about the whole Ozempic thing and if I would consider trying it, so this is my answer. Sorry it was so long-winded, but I really just fell into a rabbit hole and went down it. But other than that, I just want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!